What is up, everybody? VitalSyntax here, playing some more Battlefield 3 beta, and today I'm using the UMP45, which is a all-class weapon, and I'm using it as an engineer. And although the engineer really isn't that helpful when you first unlock it, because there's no vehicles, so there's no use for your repair tool, and the rocket launchers, although they're good for taking out cover and sometimes taking out enemies that are behind like walls or things like that you can destroy. They're not super helpful just because they don't really have a place in the battlefield unless there's vehicles. But once you unlock the EOD bot, I actually think it's a very viable choice even on a map like Operation Metro. And if you haven't gotten the EOD bot, I had unlocked it right before my stats got reset, and it's really useful. It's kind of hard to control, but you can arm the MCOM stations by just walking up to it and holding down left click, or I guess it'd be right trigger if you're on a console. And it'll arm the objective. You can also kill people, although I wouldn't really recommend like running up to people and killing them. But it's pretty effective. I was able to arm the bomb about, I don't know, 6 out of 8 times that I had done it before my stats got reset. Because most people, when they see the EOD bot, they don't know what it is. Either they don't know what it is, or they don't even notice it in the first place, because it's much less obvious than an enemy player running around. But I'm also using the holographic sight, which is my preferred choice for optics, and I'm also using the flash suppressor. So for barrel attachments, the 3 primary ones that I see people using is the flash suppressor, the silencer, or the heavy barrel. I just wanted to kind of explain the differences between the 3. So the flash suppressor is kind of obvious what it does. It makes your muzzle flash not quite as apparent. It is still there. It doesn't completely disappear, but it's a good attachment for staying undercover, especially if you're down in the subway part of the map where it's really dark and the muzzle flash is really obvious. But one of the things about it is it doesn't decrease any of the statistics, whereas the suppressor and the heavy barrel do have an effect on your statistics. So if you don't want to worry about decreasing your damage at range or increasing your recoil, which I'll get to in a couple seconds, then the flash suppressor is always a good choice, because you might as well have it on instead of no attachments, because you're at least going to be removing the muzzle flash at least a tad bit. So the heavy barrel, which I would say is probably my favorite one, the heavy barrel increases your accuracy but increases your recoil as well. So in this game, there is a lot of recoil, as you've probably noticed, and the weapons are pretty accurate though. It feels like there's more recoil than in Bad Company 2, but they're also more accurate. And accuracy obviously directly impacts, or I guess recoil directly impacts your accuracy. So it'd be weird to, I guess it sounds weird to say that you would have better accuracy but also higher recoil. You'd think that higher recoil would make it less accurate, but I'm not 100% sure how it correlates, but it feels like there's more recoil at the beginning when you first start pulling the trigger, and then when you're holding on the trigger for an extended period of time, then you'll start becoming more accurate. Just like the light machine guns, where the light machine guns basically have no recoil once you've been holding down the trigger for 10 or so bullets. That's why they're really good for holding down long corridors. And right here you can see the OD bot. Long corridors with like the saw or something and just holding down the trigger. And then the suppressor, which the suppressor is a little bit different than if you were used to a Call of Duty suppressor. The suppressor doesn't take you off the mini-map. You can still be spotted and show up on the mini-map. But what the suppressor does is it decreases the noise of your gun. So it's actually very useful, because the sound effects in this game are, number one, they're really good. They sound realistic. They're very impressive. But number 2, they're also usually pretty useful, and you can hear an enemy walking up behind you. You can hear him kill your teammate from behind you. So if you're planning on taking out, or at least flanking the enemy and going up behind them and trying to take out multiple enemies without being noticed, which I do all the time, because flanking is one of the biggest things you can do in Battlefield, especially on Rush when both sides are always coming from the same direction. Then the suppressor is always a good choice. The problem with the suppressor is it's going to decrease your damage at a longer range, because it's actually decreasing the velocity, the muzzle velocity of the bullet, so the speed at which the bullet's coming out of the chamber. So that's basically it for Battlefield 3. There's a couple other things I wanted to talk about. First one is Rage. Rage is coming out this Tuesday, the 4th of October. And I already pre-ordered it on Steam, so I'll have it, and I have it preloaded, so it's already downloaded on my computer, so I'll be able to play it at midnight, hopefully. And my question is, do you guys want to see multiplayer, co-op, single player? And leave a comment below with which one you want to see, but my plan is to do a multiplayer, like first impression / review, and then do a couple other multiplayer matches just to show you guys what it's like. And if you haven't heard anything about Rage, it's first-person shooter. There's a multiplayer that's like vehicle-based, and there's a co-op that's separate from the single player, and then there's a single player, which is kind of what the whole game's about. It's also being run on the very first, implementation of the ID5 engine, which is it's a similar engine. I guess it's the next version of the engine that Call of Duty has been running on. Call of Duty runs on a proprietary version of ID4, I believe. So ID5 is this new one that Rage is going to be the very first game that's running on it. It's going to be at 60 frames per second on consoles, and really, really good graphics on consoles as well. But I'm picking it up on the PC, and so my plan is, like I said, to do multiplayer first impression / review, and then do some other multiplayer matches, and then I'm going to do a single player walkthrough. And then I don't know, I have a couple buddies that I think might be picking the game up. Maybe I can do some co-op, or they might have some co-op matchmaking that I might jump into. The next thing is also on the 4th, this Tuesday. There's some more free Portal 2 DLC, and it's once again free. If you've purchased the game, then you're going to get for free, which is awesome. I love to see developers release free DLC. Like The Witcher 2 just released some free DLC, I believe. I haven't really touched it yet, but I heard that they released some free DLC. And it's just awesome to hear, because I don't know, I don't like paying for DLC. Obviously, nobody does like paying for anything, but I don't like paying for DLC, especially for DLC that was basically already ready to go and could have been put on the disc. I don't really know about Portal. It sounds like it's actually created post-launch. But once again, yeah, if you have Portal 2, you guys can pick that up. It's going to be, at least what I've heard, it's going to be a co-op, a couple more co-op missions. And if you haven't played the co-op in Portal 2, you should definitely check it out. It's really fun. There's, I think, around 30 different ones you can do right now. So I don't really know how many more are going to be added. I haven't really done too much research on it, but I'll hopefully do some videos on that with one of my buddies that I've been doing the Portal 2 co-op on. So you guys should see some content from that. And that's about it. That wraps up the game. I ended up with a score of 20-5. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys in the next video.